الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب الحمد لله رب العالمين. Inshallah, today's topic is, as mentioned by Brother Ashraful Islam, it will be about the existence of the universe. And as we mentioned last week, there are three main arguments of the non-believers with regard to the existence of the universe. And inshallah, we are dealing with them one by one. Last week, we discussed the first one, أوجدته الأسباب, which means they say natural causes brought it into existence. So how this universe coming into existence, how everything around us is being created, is coming into existence. So the first argument, which is called determinism, cause and effect relationship, causality, right? So they say the causes are doing the things. How an apple comes into existence, it is because of the apple tree. How the apple tree comes into existence, it is because of the seed. How a seed come into existence, because of the tree behind it. So they go back and back and back till the beginning of everything. And they say, and then we say, okay, how it started in the beginning then? They say, we don't know. Maybe it had no beginning. Maybe the material things, they are beginningless maybe, right? They say we don't know. So we cannot say that it came into existence one day. So it is still, actually, there is this Big Bang theory, isn't it? So Big Bang theory says everything started to exist at one point in the past. But some others, they say this is still a theory, so we can still prove the otherwise, because science is progressive. You know, science, sometimes it denies itself, you know, by finding another development, you know, by finding other things, evidences and findings. So they even deny themselves, deny the previous findings sometimes. So this is the, how to say, the dichotomy of the science itself, actually. It is never actually finally sure also how everything is. And when you ask philosophy is already about you know, we cannot know, we just need to ask. You know, we seek knowledge for the sake of knowledge. We don't seek knowledge for the sake of truth. We cannot find truth. We don't have to find the truth. All we know is that we cannot find the truth. Things like that. Even they say there is nothing, for example, there is nihilism, right? They say there is nothing in existence. Or others, they say skepticism. We cannot be sure about anything. So, you know, science as well as philosophy, they are quite doubtful about the existence, but they reject. They are doubtful, but at the same time, they completely reject a God. So if you're doubtful, then how you can reject, isn't it? So they have this dichotomy, actually, this contradiction. They are not sure, but at the same time, they are sure that there is no God. So it means this is an ideology. This is not scientific. So their judgment about the non-existence of a God is just an ideology. It is you know, it's a bias. It is not actually, it's not you know, a reality. So they are actually supposed to be undecided, okay, but they say they make a decision, there's no God, no need for God, etc. So, but just last week we mentioned that, okay, there are causes. And now, you know, they explain everything, right? They explain how things come into existence with the causes and effect relationships. So they say, okay, now we explain everything. No need for God. Why? They say God is something that we cannot explain. So when we don't explain, we say, oh, then a God must have created. So we don't know how it runs. We don't know what's going on. But actually, you know, Nietzsche, for example, okay, Nietzsche, he said, you know, God is dead. Why? He wrote a book, God is Dead. Why? Because he said previously we didn't know some explanations in the, you know, in the universe. And then people used to say, okay, there must be a God. But today we know how the universe is functioning. So there's no need for God. So he says science has killed God, right? So na'udhu billah. They have these kind of opinions and ideas. But then um, and all, their judgments, their ideas fall into three categories. One is natural causes bring things into existence. The other one is they take on form on their own accord by themselves. Like it's happening on its own. It happens by itself. This is another explanation. And third explanation is the nature and the natural laws necessitate and do it. Okay. So this is the third explanation. So last week we talked about the natural causes, and Imam Nursi gave the example of what we call the pharmacy example. So just like a medicine cannot come into existence without a pharmacist, it cannot come into existence by just by the wind, by falling down of the of those medical substances, and they, by coming and mixing together, they cannot make a healing, you know, medicine. I was just reading the how an aspirin, okay, is made. Subhanallah, a lot of things, a lot of faces. Even one of the simplest, let's say, medicines, right? An aspirin goes through a lot of actually processes. All right. So this is why um, like for example, Darwin, who said, evolution, right? Who claimed the evolution, but it is still a theory, by the way. Evolution is a theory. The scientists, they use evolution as if it is like it's like a law, but it's not a law. It's just a theory, still an idea, and it is yet to be proven. Inshallah, another time we will talk about evolution. So they say, for example, evolution is also a kind of all of these three things. Okay, it's like a combination of these three things. Okay, so those things they cannot, those substances they cannot make a medicine by themselves or by the causes, because the causes they don't know about sicknesses. What is your sickness? They have no knowledge about it. They have no will to do something. Okay, so the agent has to have the features and the characteristics and the attributes in order to do the action. For example, if you see a small child with a book in his hand, can you believe that this book was written by the child? No, we don't believe, isn't it? We say this book was given to him by somebody else. It doesn't belong to him. So like that, when we look at the causes in this world, such as a tree, for example, a tree like a child, it doesn't know anything. A small kid, it doesn't know anything. It doesn't know who is human beings, what do they eat, what do they need, what do they like. The trees, they don't know anything about this. So how come a tree can produce the apple, the fruits, all those colorful, different tastes, different shapes, for human beings? Impossible. So inshallah, we talk about the second one today. تشكل بنفسه, it took on form on its own or of its own accord. So by itself, okay? So the things, sometimes the science uses the language. Okay, it happened, it made this one, that made that one. It is as if the things are doing things but on their own. Okay, it is as if, for example, they say, when you see a rootlet, okay, there is a plant or a tree, for example, or a small plant. So that small plant has rootlets under the soil, isn't it? So let's say this is the soil, okay? So the rootlet is going down and, just moving here and there. But it is so tiny, actually, so tiny. The rootlet is so tiny. But it is going through a hard place, a hard soil. The soil is so hard. Like I cannot dig with my finger, for example, right? Even with something hard, it is really difficult, to dig through. But that is, that goes down and it is not damaged. That rootlet goes down safely. How? Because the science saying, oh, okay, that rootlet releasing a certain type of acid. So with that acid, it penetrates through what we call the soil. Okay, now we ask the question, oh, really? That rootlet knows what type of acid it should produce? It knows very well because there are many, many types of acids, for example. So it does it know what type of acid is needed? How much acid is needed? What is the amount of that acid? And then how does he know that an acid is needed? Okay. Why is it supposed to go down? And, I mean, all of these processes, the rootlet has no idea. Do you know what kind of acid needs to be produced in order to dig the soil? We don't know. Unless we study, let's say, the particular sciences, then you can learn. I mean, so these rootlets, these trees, these plants, which university they studied? When did they learn what kind of acid they are supposed to release, right? They didn't study anywhere. So how then the science can say, okay, they release an acid? I mean, it is not his action. They release the acid, okay, but the acid doesn't belong to it. It is not the producer, it is not the agent, the true agent of the acid, right? Okay. So it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Who, you know, who makes, everything, who makes that plant release an acid, for example. They don't know, but Allah knows. Allah is commanding and it is doing. Allah actually creating all of its action. Even we human beings, we conscious human beings, what we say, if you can remember what we said before, our actions we are not creating. We just intend to do something, and our actions are all created by Allah. Even me, human being, the highest level of being on earth, even my actions doesn't belong to me. I'm just intending, and then my actions are all created by Allah. I'm unable to do my actions if Allah doesn't create it. So how come a plant, me, I cannot own my actions. I'm doing it. I'm just intending to do. Allah is creating. So how come a plant is releasing the acid? Even the plant doesn't have an intention. Me, I have an intention. I have a will, free will. I can make choice. Even the plant doesn't have a choice. You see? Even the plant doesn't have a choice. How we can say that the plant is releasing? The plant didn't choose to release any acid. You see? So, unfortunately, the language used here is very dangerous. This is why Bediüzzaman Said Nursi is, criticizing the language that is actually spreading, that is actually meaning non-belief, right? This kind of discourses in the studies, in the universities, in lectures, in whatever level in the schools, this kind of language is quite dangerous. When we say it is releasing this, this is doing this, it is as if we give this action to it. Yes, we can, for the sake of argument, we have to say so sometimes. We cannot always say Allah making it release an acid, Allah making it rain, Allah making it do so. We cannot make the sentence. We don't have to make the sentence always like that. But in our conscience, everyone, teachers, lecturers, whoever is dealing with, teaching with basic or advanced science, okay, either basic in the primary level, kindergarten level, secondary level, or basic university, postgraduate levels, they have to bear in mind that Allah is making it do it. So when we say it is releasing an acid, we should not actually mean that it is the one that is doing by itself. We should know in our mind that Allah is making it release the acid. Right? So our intention while saying so, our consciousness, our understanding is really important. Okay, so inshallah, let's move on to. So everything here has, Imam Nursi explains each and every argument. There are three arguments, right? So Imam Nursi explains each argument with three impossibilities. So each of them he is nullifying, he is rejecting, and he's disproving with three impossibilities. So now we go to the second one, تشكل بنفسه, and then the first impossibility. So there are three impossibilities. Okay. So today we will be reading the second impossibility, but before that, let us read the starting sentence. Second matter, تشكل بنفسه, that is, existing beings take on their forms of their own accord. So the things in existence, they take on their form, whatever they're doing, by themselves. This is the argument. Observe, this phrase also comprises a great number of impossibilities. So Imam Nur saying this sentence, this claim is impossible. How they take on form by themselves. This is impossible. So this phrase, تشكل بنفسه, it takes on form on its own accord, comprises a great number of impossibilities. So it is impossible in many, many ways. It is superstitious, and impossible in many different ways. So it is unbelievable, and it's impossible in many different ways that they take on form on their own. We will now explain 3 impossibilities as examples. Okay, so I want to read the second one today. Okay. The second impossibility. Your body resembles a magnificent palace of 1,000 domes. Okay, you know the dome, right? The dome that, the palace, so it has domes, okay? Here and here, several domes. So our body is like a palace with 1,000 domes, okay? Dome means like a unit, like a room, okay? Maybe a small room, something like that, okay? So it has this kind of roof, okay? Like the dome. So our body has like 100 rooms. It has like 100 domes, okay? 1,000, sorry. The stones of each dome have been placed. So each dome in this palace. So this is the analogy. First, let us focus on the analogy, the example. So just imagine a dome, okay? A dome. Maybe I can just show you quickly. This is a dome, right? For example. Okay, let's go into this masjid, for example. In this one, you can see the domes. This one, this one, this one. You see the big one. All right. So these are the domes, okay? In Sultan Ahmed Mosque, also there are domes. You see a lot of small domes here. All right. So in these domes, you can see here, for example, in this picture once again, you see the stones are leaning on each other, right? They are lying down on each other. How they stand like that? Because one is above the other, that is leaning on the other, that is leaning on the other. Okay, this way, because it is not like this, yeah? Or it is not like this. So they go up, but they go up like this, by leaning on each other. Right? So the stones of each dome, so each dome is made of a lot of stones, right? Pieces of bricks. The stones of each dome have been placed such that they support one another, suspended without pillars. Indeed, there is no pillar holding the dome, right? The dome is empty, even sometimes it's so huge. So it means the stones have been placed in such a way that no one is falling. It is actually facing the earth, facing the bottom, right? It can actually fall down like this. But it leans on each other like this, okay? So it cannot fall down. Why? Because it is stuck with the other one. It leans on this one. This is on this one. So it doesn't fall down like this. Indeed, so the domes are like that. This is how all the domes they exist. They continue to exist. Even, for example, the great Mi'mar, okay, architect Mi'mar Sinan, the architect who built the most, great or the greatest, the most, magnificent masjid in Turkey. One day, in one kind of dome, okay, there was one stone which was getting weaker. It was going to fall down. And the experts, they said, this one is gonna fall down, and we have to take out, and we have to, renew this one. And then they have taken out, and they have seen a note. There was a note from the architect from hundreds of years ago, and he wrote a note. This one, can collapse. The stones of this place will get rotten after such and such years. And subhanallah, yani he estimated how many years it will remain, and it really happened, as he said. And then he said, okay, after you take down these things and then rebuild it in the following manner. And he even guided them how to rebuild. Subhanallah. So this is how it is so meticulous. Yeah, it is a very difficult job to build them. It is very important. Otherwise, if you don't pay attention enough, it will fall down. Indeed, your body is 1,000 times more astonishing than such a palace. Now we are astonished by those domes, okay? But our body, so that is one palace with 1,000 domes. Now our body is like a palace as well, but its domes, it is much more astonishing than a palace. Our body, which is a palace, it's much more astonishing than a palace. For the palace of your body, so our body is like a palace. The palace of your body is continually renewed with perfect regularity and order. Every organ in your body, this without even considering the surpassingly marvelous spirit, heart, and the other subtle spiritual centers, is like a domed house. So we have, there is a continuous renewal. Like, for example, in the example that I have just given, they didn't renew the domes, okay, the stone, for hundreds of years they didn't renew. And one day they had to renew. One day they had to renew. Why? Because it was going to fall down. But it is a difficult job. So when they have to renew, the architect had to put a note. Why? Because this is a particular job. They may not do it well. So he wanted to give the guidance, the instruction. But our body is being renewed instantly, always and always and always. Continually, it's being renewed. You see? It's not hundreds of years we have the same body. Even we don't live 100 years, right? Actually, every second, some cells are dying, some other cells are recreated. Some cells are dying and some other cells are being created in our body. It's continually being renewed. And it is in a great order. There is no chaos. There is no problems, okay? During this renewal of the cells, for example, no problems. And even there are greater things such as spirit, heart. Not even mention about these important organs. Or not even just physical order. They are quite spiritual and advanced compared to a stomach, compared to a liver, compared to a lung. Our heart, spiritually, our spirits are much more developed, entities, okay, units. Not even talking about this. Talking about even just the material one, the more simple and material one, it is quite complex and difficult, but it is at the same time renewed, continually being renewed. All right, so each organ is like a domed house, is like 1 out of 1,000, okay, domes. So each organ is like a dome in our body. For each of these particles, its particles support one another in perfect counterbalance and harmony, quite in the same way as the stones of that dome do so, and display a marvelous building, a magnificent piece of art, a wonderful miracle of power, like the eye and the tongue. For example, we have eye and we have tongue. So how it consists of so many cells. Trillions of cells or millions of cells, billions of cells, right? So in our body, we have around 37 trillion cells, according to scientific data at the moment. So each of our organ, like an eye, a tongue. So they also like a domed house, okay? So it consists of a lot of, organelles, cells, is in a lot of units and subunits, isn't it? So all of those units and subunits, they lean on each other, okay? They are suspended without pillars, and they lean on each other. They exist together. And then they become a piece of art, a miracle of power. They are like a miracle. No one can do it, actually. No human being can do it. Okay, so like the stone of a dome, they also, all cells and organelles and units and subunits of our organs, they also stand in a certain place in our organs, like the bricks and stones of the dome. Okay, they stand in a very right place and they don't break the balance. They don't break the balance. If these particles are not in fact officials, following the order of the architect and creator of this world. Each of them must then possess absolute rule over every one of its particles existing in the body. Okay. Now, Imam Nursi is using the word architect. So when an architect, okay, who is the architect of our body? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the architect who built our body. So if each cell, each organelle, each organ in our body is not an obedient officer of Allah, if it is not obedient to Allah, then then what will happen? If we claim, non-believers, they say, no, they're not obedient to Allah. They don't know Allah. There is no Allah, isn't it? They say there is no God. So which means all the cells, they are free. All the cells in our body, they are acting, moving freely, isn't it? No one is like controlling them. Okay? And then what must happen? Then all of the cells in our body, they must have a consciousness. They must have a control over their actions. Okay? They must have an absolute rule over the others. For example, when there is an equity between every student in the classroom, okay, what happens? Every student can rule over the other, potentially, right? Potentially can rule over the other. So and it can also be ruled by the other at the same time, because there is no everything is quite balanced. Everyone is free, so everyone can rule the other. Okay. Yet also be unrestrictedly ruled by them at the same time. So both will be ruling the others and can be ruled by the others at the same time, because there is no one ruler that is ruling all. So when all of them are, for example, if there is no commander giving the command to the soldiers, when the soldiers are all free to do what they want, but they want to give command, rule the army in a disciplined way. So what is going to happen? Everyone can give command. Let's say I'm one of those soldiers. So, okay, everyone, let's walk this way. You see, I want to command everyone so that we can all do one thing at the same time. But somebody else also will give command, and he will command to me. Okay, Yusuf, listen to me. We have to do like this. So I am commanding at the same time. I'm receiving commands. There is no order. It is impossible to do the same action all together with the soldiers. There is a complete chaos. So there must be one architect who's building our building. And all of the organelles, cells in our body, they have to be obediently following the commands of Allah. Similarly, each particle must be identical to all other particles and simultaneously contrast with them in its rulership. Likewise, it must be a source and spring of most of the attributes unique to the necessary being, and it must be in a simultaneous state of absolute restrictedness and unrestrictedness. So if we claim that there is no God, and if we claim that our body is acting on its own, every cell is acting on its own, every organ is acting on its own, okay, then what happens? Every cell in my body must know what's going on in the rest of the body, because they will take a position. So they have to know what everyone else is doing in the body so that they can take their position in the right way. So currently, my cells, everything is going perfectly. So which means all the cells, they take their right place. They take right position, isn't it? So which means if they don't receive commands from Allah, and if they are not placed by Allah, if they place themselves, if they move by themselves, then they have to know all the others. And they have to be ruling all the others, or they have to be ruled by all the others. What we are talking about? How it is like I'm ruling at the same time as I'm being ruled? This is impossible. Okay, ruling all of them at the same time, being ruled by them. There is no rulership. This is not a rulership model, right? This is impossible. This is chaos. We call this chaos. Whoever can rule the other, everyone is striving to rule the other, for example. But if our body were like that, there would be chaos. I would fall sick every day, or I would die. My body would collapse instantly. But it doesn't collapse like the dome. Does the dome collapse? No, it doesn't. Why? Because the architect placed them in their right places. The bricks, the stones, they are not free. They didn't choose their place. All the bricks, they obeyed the architect. An architect placed them nicely, and they can stand for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Right? So likewise, all of our cells in the body, they are obedience officers of Allah. Allah tells them where to do, where to go, what to do. For example, we eat a fruit, and then the vitamins and nutrients, etc., they go somewhere. Some of them go to eye, some of them go to my bones, some of them go to other places. How do they know where to go? How do they know where to go? They are being commanded by someone. They know where they have to go. SubhanAllah. They all listen to the command of Allah. Allah tells them which part of the body they have to go. Similarly, okay, this one done. Apart from all this, anyone possessing a particle's weight of consciousness will be able to perceive through the secret of unicity that the ascription of a masterful, wonderful creation which cannot have come into existence except by way of the work of the one, the singular, to a limitless number of particles is manifestly and self-evidently impossible, and in fact comprises 100 possibilities. So, anyone possessing a particle's weight of consciousness will be able to perceive through the secret of unicity that the ascription of a masterful, wonderful creation, okay, to a limitless number of particles is a manifestly and self-evidently impossible, and in fact comprises 100 impossibilities. So finally, when we when a particle has this consciousness, it has to control all the others. Okay, so controlling all the others and being controlled, all of them, and at the same time there will be a masterful work, a perfect work, while there are limitless number of particles, limitless number of conscious beings like cells. If they have conscience that by themselves, then it is limitless number of conscious cells. So there we cannot talk about actually a masterful work of art, an artful art work, etc. So if we talk about one unified product, then we talk about one decision maker. If there is a one unified product, then there is one decision maker. So when we talk about one dome, it means all the stones, they lean on each other, they listened to the commands of the architect. They were placed there by the architect. They don't choose where they are supposed to stay. They don't choose where they're supposed to stay. For example, if they have conscience, okay, for example, sometimes we ask students, okay, where you want to sit? Some of them, I want to sit in the front. The others, no, I want to sit in the front. Everyone will clash. They will fight. No, I want to, or I want to sit here. Many people will want to sit in the same place. So there will be a what? A chaos, a clash between everyone. Right? When they have conscience and their own free wills. But in the stones, in the dome, they don't have free wills. They don't have conscience. They are just put there by the architect. They are nicely placed, and there's no clash. There's no chaos. So the cell in our body is the same. They have no conscience. They have no preferences. The cells, they don't prefer where to go, what to do. They don't know what they are doing. They don't prefer to do something. They are just made to go wherever they are supposed to go. Allah makes them go wherever they are supposed to go. All right. So this way, we cannot claim that the universe is functioning on its own. If something has to function on its own, there will be chaos. There will be no unity. There will be no unified form. No one, output. There will be no one unified output. It will be just a mass and chaos. For example, again, the scientists, they say, the Big Bang. Okay, the Big Bang is actually very close to Islamic opinion, right? Because we say everything was created from nothing, right? So according to Big Bang theory, they say, the objects or the planets in the universe, they get red in color, redder and redder and redder. And it means they say they go remoter from each other, okay? And then they say it means they were together at one point. And then they say it means they came into existence from one point, okay, or from nothing. All right. So this is quite close to the Islamic opinion. All right, because we say everything came out from nothing. And then, according to Big Bang Theory again, after the universe started to come into existence, the things that were created instantly in the first creation, they had to have a gravity pulling and pushing mechanism between them. Otherwise, they would just disperse and they would not be maintained in a certain orbit and system between them. So there had to be a gravity instantly after the creation, right after the Big Bang, the creation, they have to be, managed with a certain gravity, a power, between them. They have to be holding, close to each other with a certain, I mean, distance, etc. Okay, and they say if that gravity started a little bit late, the universe would just fall apart, would just disperse. But if that gravity started earlier than it started, and then it could not expand. But now the universe is also expanding, right? So it could not expand. You see, subhanallah, the gravity started at the right time. Even it is calculated by milliseconds, something like that. You see, by the scientists. So which means the Big Bang, it cannot happen on its own. The gravity had to start at a certain time exactly. Otherwise, it would either be too loose and everyone would just disperse, and we would not be talking about a solar system today, isn't it? The galaxies, our galaxies, planets, right? We would not be talking about these things who are always in an orbit together with each other. Okay, so it should not have been, it could not be earlier or later than it happened. So which means it started at a certain time. So this was decided by Allah, who knows when it should start. This was decided, the time of gravity was decided by Allah, who is powerful over deciding and starting the gravity. You see, it needs the knowledge, it needs the decision, it needs the power, it needs everything, right, to be made. So this way, inshallah, we can conclude that nothing can come into existence and can continue to exist by itself. It has to be created in the beginning, and it has to be maintained. The continuity is also something else. It has to be maintained by someone, by the one who is endlessly powerful, endlessly knowledgeable, endlessly, having al-murid, okay, the endless will and decision and everything. So all the beautiful names and attributes of Allah are necessary for this universe to come into existence. This is why we say there is Allah. This is why we say Islam is the right religion. Why? Because the attributes of the Creator, as it is explained in Islam, is the best way. When we go to some other religions, their concept of God cannot create this world. Their concept of God, has nothing to do with this existing real world that we all see and scientifically study. So inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and strengthen our iman. May Allah remove any kind of shubha and doubt in our hearts. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us assist our brothers and sisters around us to clear their doubts and to respond to their questions, inshallah rahman. Because we are living in the akhirul zaman, we are living in the time of materialism, atheism, positivism. It is not really, impossible to see people having doubts like this. And especially when secularism and everything is expanding, is increasing in our countries. So we quite expect these kind of questions and doubts. So we need to be equipped with this kind of examples, right? Dome example, etc. So you have just listened to some of the analogies and examples. So we can just equip ourselves with these kind of things. And whenever we meet any brother or sister, we can just clarify their doubts, inshallah rahman. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Thank you, dear Ustad Yusuf Karab, for your nice and lucid presentation in the today's sessions. Now I would like to request our participant, dear brother and sister, now the floor is open for everyone. You may kindly ask any question to our Ustad. Please, dear brother and sister, raise your hands and ask your questions. No one is raising their hands to ask any question. I think everybody have got their point. So
It's
I
clear,
would like
inshallah.
to request our Ustaz to conclude our today's session by concluding a speech. Dear
Okay,
Ustaz.
inshallah. Thank you so much, Brother Ashraful Islam. Jazakumullah khairan for listening. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us in Iman. May Allah remove any doubts, any things in our minds and hearts. And Alhamdulillah, we have this kind of explanations, examples by, Alhamdulillah, great ulama. And we are the patients, right? We are the sick people, and we are listening to the doctor, like Imam Badi'ur Zaman and other scholars. They are the doctors, right? And we are the patients and the sick. And we need to listen. We should not say, I'm okay, I believe in Allah. No, we should not say that. Sometimes we need vitamin also. Sometimes we need to strengthen our immune system. You know, it is not like, we are okay, I
Yes.
don't need to use anything. We need to strengthen our body. If you don't go out to the sun, for example, what happens? Your vitamin D will decrease, right? So you have to make sure that your body remains strong. You need to eat enough food, you need to drink, you need to take enough rest, you need to expose your body to sunlight, blah, 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 isn't it? A lot of things we need to do. So our iman is also like that. We cannot say that my iman is say, okay, I believe in Allah, khalas. Till the end of my life, I'm gonna go like this. How come? After we buy our car, wow, it is perfect. Let's say we buy a brand new car. Does it remain like that?
No,
If you
no.
don't wash regularly, let's say when you neglect, when you ignore washing your car for some weeks, or some dirt remain on it and you cannot move it again, right? Cannot remove some dirt, it remains, on your car, for example. Both inside, outside, the engine, tires, everything you have to maintain, right? The maintenance cost of the car. So we human beings, we have heart, we have spirit, we have, qalb, we have nafs, subhanallah, everything is moving. All of them are quite mobile. They are so active. So we need to remember the hadith, جددوا إيمانكم بلا إله إلا الله. Renew, refresh your iman, renew your iman with La ilaha illallah. We need to think about La ilaha illallah, that there is no God but Allah. These are the, tafakkur sessions. These are thinking sessions on the meaning and the reality of La ilaha illallah, that there is no God but Allah. So today we have listened to one particular, proof with regard to the existence of God, isn't it? Why, by disproving one argument of atheism, right? So we, inshallah, strengthen our iman by removing one virus. Again, when you have a laptop, your laptop will be filled with virus if you don't use antivirus, isn't it? So now we are removing some viruses maybe that may have entered into our minds. So we need to make this kind of maintenance. All right, this is a maintenance. There was a great, Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anh, he went somewhere and he said, I'm going to prove the existence of God with 40 proofs. With 40 proofs. And there was one old lady, he said, I believe in God, I don't need any proof. So, and then we can say, yeah, Imam, you are doing, you are doing in vain. You are struggling. You don't need to explain people. Which one knows better? The old lady knows better, or Imam Abu Hanifa knows better? Why Imam Abu Hanifa going to Muslims to prove the existence of God with 40, proofs? So it means we need those proofs. Even though we believe, we need to listen to great Imams like this, and we need to refresh, maintain, clean, wash, okay, inshallah, the viruses and the doubts, or we need to upgrade. We cannot remain as we are. We have to strengthen, upgrade, right, our iman. Because our environment is quite hectic, moving, active. We cannot just be stagnant. We cannot just be constantly waiting. And no, we have to upgrade and protect ourselves. Just like the world outside is improving. So if you cannot make your companies, for example, compatible with technology, with the contemporary developments, you cannot sustain, isn't it? You cannot just remain as you are, right? If you are a school manager, You cannot, remain as you are. You have to upgrade your management, your systems, your materials. So Iman is also like that, because the environment is getting difficult, more and more difficult. So we need to make more maintenance, more upgrades, and more improvements on our Iman, inshallah. So with this, we can conclude, inshallah.
Thank you, dear Ustad. Now I would like to conclude our today's session. Inshallah, in the next week we will meet again at the same time and same time. We would like to conclude our today's session from reciting Surah Al-Asr. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal asri innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilus salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.